friends. This is Pastor Joe with another Sheep Talk. It's already been quite a morning. My wife couldn't sleep last night, and so she got up early. Well, I'm used to getting up a few minutes after she gets up. I lie there and awaken, and I had a lot to do this morning, so I thought I better get up. And I looked at the clock and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to be late because it was nearly 7 o'clock. And I got up and got dressed and everything and discovered that no, I had misread it. It was 6 o'clock. So I'm off to a good start this morning, pretty much. On my way to the office here, it finally happened. Here I am going up Vista Road. It's still dark outside, and along across the road walks an elk, a big elk with lots of horns, and he just took his time as though he owned the road. And that's why I hate it that some stupid person puts up these signs that says elk crossing. I mean, don't they know elk can't read? They don't go across those crossings at all. They go wherever they want to go. But I was driving slow enough, able to slow down and let him cross. And so here I am this morning. I wanted to get this sheep talk in because I'm running behind this week. I do have all the new equipment at home and I'm trying to get it worked out and get it set up, but I needed to do this morning. So I realize it's not as quality as it could be, but it's going to be. This morning, I want to share a couple of passages of scripture with you, especially those of you who are going through some difficult times. The first one is back in Proverbs chapter 16 and Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 22. It says, "A joyful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones." How's your heart this morning? Is it a joyful heart? Even the Apostle Paul, you remember, tells us in Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, "Rejoice in the Lord always." And again, I say, rejoice. To be honest, I sometimes wish I were one of those liberal pastors who could change passages and take out words I didn't like. I almost wish the Apostle Paul hadn't said, evermore. Rejoice in the Lord always. I mean, that seems a stretch of real life to rejoice always. Do you remember joy is not the same thing as happiness? Joy means sort of a happiness, a contentment, in spite of the things that are going on because God is in control. I want to remind you in this pandemic that God is in control. There are a lot of things that you can be joyful about during this pandemic. I was telling our Bible study last night, you can take advantage of this pandemic. For those of you who still have young children, or maybe you have grandchildren and you've never really explained it to them about Santa Claus, well, this is your big chance. You can say, I'm sorry to tell you, kids, but Santa was overweight and old and probably had asthma, and he didn't make it through the pandemic. I know that you are probably disappointed with 2020. Yeah, me too. In fact, I wish there was someone I could write and say, I've used my 10-month trial of 2020 and I want to return it now. I haven't been able to use much of it at all. In fact, it reminds me that the worst purchase I ever made was a 2020 planner and schedule book. I haven't been able to use it. When I wrote things down and scheduled them, they all got changed. But after all, the Apostle Paul says, in everything rejoice. And the Proverbs, merry heart does good like medicine. So we need to rejoice even in those things. And think about it this way. Look at parents who are home with their children, homeschooling all day long. You know that they're going to come up with a vaccine before the medical personnel ever get around to doing anything. So that kind of excites me. I know some of you are lonely, And even though I live in the same house with my wife, we tend to do things at different places in the house, so I can get lonely too. I was in my office the other day and I struck up a conversation with a spider on my window. She seemed nice. I discovered that she was a web designer, and so that was kind of exciting. You know, during all of this coronavirus pandemic, I never would have thought in a million years that I would be able to put on a mask and go up to the bank teller and ask for money without that silly guard standing in the corner tackling me to the ground. I mean, things have really changed. I got to remind you though, when this is all over, I think we're going to have to keep wearing our masks, but we're going to have to wear them backwards just to get our ears back into the proper shape that they ought to be. As a pastor, one of the problems that I have had is in marriage counseling. You know, a lot of couples are having difficulties during this pandemic. One woman asked her husband, "Honey, has this quarantine made me fat? Because I've noticed that my buttons are starting to social distance from each other." Well, he thought he was being a good husband and he said, "No, honey, quarantine isn't making you fat. In fact, you've never been skinny." Time of death, 10:25 a.m. Cause of death, coronavirus. Yeah, that's the way things are. Well, when I get ready to die, Sharon and I have decided on cremation. And I think when I know the Lord is about to take me, I'm going to swallow a bag of popcorn. My cremation is going to be epic. Well, speaking about going out, I think maybe this is the time I ought to be going out with you. I just had one purpose for you this morning, and that was to remind you of joy. Joy is like a medicine. You need to have a lot of it in your life right now, in spite of the circumstances. God's in control. He's going to take care of you. Remember, I love you. I hope you have a wonderful week as you do whatever you're doing during this time to keep yourself safe. God bless you.